What's going on, everybody? Russell Clay here for another video. We're going to be talking about three players I like and am buying at this stage, at this juncture in the 2022 fantasy football offseason. We are just about 2 weeks away from real live regular season football, and I'm excited to sort of talk about a few of the guys that I'm highlighting as we really do head into the actual season. We've been basically jockeying for position all off season with our dynasty leagues, our best ball leagues, or even our season-long leagues. And now the time has come. A lot of people are drafting right now, and a lot of people are setting they're staking their flags. So I'm going to do that with a few guys today. As hopefully you know, if you don't, I'm a staff writer over at fantasyguru.com. If you like this video, please give it a like and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate that. And also, hey, head over to Fantasy Guru. Definitely check that out. So let's fire into this. All right, the number one player I'm going to highlight today, the first guy I'm going to highlight today, probably not my number one guy this offseason, but I want to talk about Matt Ryan. And for whatever reason, Matt Ryan is still going in the 150s, despite just about every skill position player on his offense getting a hype piece at some point this offseason. Whether you're talking about the big guns like Michael Pittman or Jonathan Taylor, or you're talking about these secondary pieces like Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, Nyheim Hines, even a little Ashton Doolin. So a lot of this offense is getting hype. Some Mo Alley Cox, Jelani Woods, even Ogletree before he was injured and out for the season was getting hype for the tight ends there. This is a new team. Carson Wentz was able to somewhat optimize this offense last year, but as we saw, he certainly comes with limitations of his own. And I think Matt Ryan, he is 38, but he's been really consistent throughout his career, and he's, been a high-end pocket passer for, essentially the entirety of his career. He's thrown for over 500 passing attempts in each of the last 10 years. He has thrown for, over 600 in 3 of the last 4 years. And last year, he really only didn't hit that mark because after Calvin Ridley got hurt / suspended, he didn't officially get suspended, but there's a lot going on there. He didn't really have anyone to pass to other than Kyle Pitts. And my thought is he's going to have a much better supporting cast. He has his Nyheim Hines, his Tevin Coleman archetype player. He has, a nice outside wide receiver in Michael Pittman. I'm not going to compare him to Julio, but could he put up a Roddy White type year? I mean, Matt Ryan's career has lasted longer than Julio Jones, so Calvin Ridley as well. Can Michael Pittman put up that 12 to 1,300 receiving yard season? I absolutely think he can. And then you kind of look at, these secondary pieces. We're not expecting a lot out of Alec Pierce and Paris Campbell individually, but when you add it all up, you're like, hey, these guys could be competent NFL receivers making big plays, cashing in on some of those big passing attempts for Matt Ryan. So if those three can all stay healthy, which, we'll see with Paris Campbell, why wouldn't he get back into these 4,500 passing yard ranges? And if he does, and he gets that 26 to 30 passing touchdowns, you're getting free money over here in the 150s. You're going to get those starts you need from that QB2 or QB3 spot. Most likely QB2, but, if you get 6, 7, 8 starts out of Matt Ryan this year and he gets, 15 to 20 points 10 plus times, you're going to be really happy for that pick, especially if one of your quarterbacks goes down or something like that in best ball. And then in season long, I mean, he's got the Jaguars, he's got the Texans, he's got a really cushy schedule. So I think Matt Ryan is a great value this year and a guy that is pretty easily, that's about as high of a floor as you're going to get. Sure, you're not going to get that 30-point ceiling every week like a Lamar Jackson or whatever, but maybe you take Jackson and take a Matt Ryan to team up with him, something like that, where you have that floor combined with the ceiling of the high-end quarterback. So, and again, just looking at this offense, I mean, this is a really talented group, and we're not used to saying that with the Colts, but, Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, Alec Pierce, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly. I mean, we have a nice offensive line for Matt Ryan, probably the best of his career. We have, really nice pieces, at least one of the best supporting casts of his career, not that MVP caliber season, but certainly one of the better supporting casts he's ever had, and he obviously has the featured running back in Jonathan Taylor. So that's going to keep defenses honest. I think this offense is going to be a well-oiled machine, and we're going to be cashing in this year with Matt Ryan. So there you go. Another one, this one, my conviction isn't quite as high as, say, a Matt Ryan or the last guy we're going to be talking about, but Ameer Abdullah. He's a guy that, really busted as a Detroit Lion. Had some stints with the Minnesota Vikings. Not really a guy that produced the way we wanted him to out of Nebraska. Out of Nebraska, we'll go back to Ameer Abdullah's profile, and I'm going to give the case for maybe a Cordero Patterson type rebirth here. Ameer Abdullah was always sort of undersized, that 5'9", 205, sort of rocked up, like smaller running back. Didn't have that elite speed, and, injuries were really the thing that hurt Abdullah in his career, but I do think the lack of long speed is what held him back as sort of a featured back, or teams not willing to give him a featured role. But what I will say is Ameer Abdullah was always an excellent receiving back. And the fact that Kenyon Drake was dropped here, hold on, I can't get that tab out of the way. The fact that, Kenyon Drake was dropped in favor of potentially Abdullah, I think this is a great last round buy. Abdullah, can be in that Cordero Patterson range of outcomes here where he becomes this receiving role threat. We know Zamir White and Josh Jacobs are the two down backs, but if Ameer Abdullah can shift into that James White role in Josh McDaniel's system, I mean, that can be money in the bank for you, especially on drafters in that PPR format. I really think Abdullah has nice upside. We know Josh Jacobs has struggled with injuries. We know Zamir White, both his knees have major injuries in them. I think Abdullah has really high upside for no price at all. You can probably pick him up on your Dynasty waiver wire. But this is kind of the news before the news here, because once he makes this roster and people go and look at that depth chart and see him as the receiving back, they are going to go bananas. So buy right now. I won't want to buy him once he jumps 5-7 rounds, but for now, Ameer Abdullah, interesting player. And finally, Pat Freiermuth inexplicably dropped 8 to 10 spots in underdog ADP, and is going in the 140s in drafters, going late in season-long leagues as well. This last drop, he was going in the 120s before he got held out a week of practice with a quote-unquote hamstring injury. He's since returned to practice, and his ADP has not recovered. So for those of you that have followed me for any portion of time, you know I am in the always draft Pat Freiermuth crew. I was in that crew last year. I was in that crew before he got drafted. Penn State, he had an immense career at Penn State. Receiving tight ends don't often break out at a young age, but he was out there, catching 8 touchdowns as a true freshman. Really special dude. Doesn't look it. He doesn't have that elite athletic profile like a Kyle Pitts or David Njoku or OJ Howard. these prototypical first-round tight end prospects. He went in the second round, but that's still really good. That's where that's where Rob Gronkowski came from. Second round of the draft. We saw him break out in year one. By the end of that year, he was Ben Roethlisberger's, one of his favorite targets. I think that's going to continue this year. Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett are guys that are somewhat limited in their passing game. So regardless of who's the starter, Freiermuth's gonna be getting targeted underneath there. I'm not worried about George Pickens. I'm not worried about Deontay Johnson. I'm not worried about Chase Claypool. Pat Freiermuth fits in with all those guys. He's not taking away. Same thing with Najee Harris. These guys all kind of meld together really nicely. Of course, the Steelers coaching staff is excellent at drafting skill position players. So, once again, I'm buying Pat Freiermuth every opportunity I can. I don't understand why people don't want to. If that's you, then hey, I respect it, but I certainly want him over Albert O. I want him over Zach Ertz. I would put him in that Dawson Knox, TJ Hawkinson range. But instead he's going in this, Irv Smith, Albert O tier. So I don't really get that. I think Pat Freiermuth is going to he was one of the best tight end prospects of the last 5 years. There was no one in this class that was better than him. And even in the last couple, beyond Kyle Pitts, there really hasn't been a guy like him to come along. Broke out in year one, has a solidified role. I know people don't want to touch those Steelers quarterbacks, but I think a really cheap stack is Freiermuth and Trubisky or Freiermuth and Pickett. I just think he could get 100 targets this year. I really do. So that's my take there. Love this crew. Thank you all for tuning in. As I said, my name is Russell Clay, and as you can see, I'm going to edit this article and throw it out onto fantasyguru.com. Please go check that out. As I said, if you like anything about this video or found any of this valuable information, please give it a like. Also subscribe, and I think that's it for us today. So thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.